Okay, everybody. I got a package in the mail this weekend. I was actually surprised it came as quick as it did, but I'm glad that it did. Um, if you recall, I'm rebuilding this Kingston Conley electric motor for my Walker Turner drill press, and I came up against the problem that most people have had that are trying to do a rebuild of this motor, either under this name or rebranded. But the problem that I came up with, or that I came against, was trying to replace this bearing right here. That is an SKF number 465181. It turns out that this bearing is an odd size that's not readily available anymore. Let's see if we switch over to millimeters. It is 35 millimeters outside diameter. It is just over 12. It should be 12, I think. 12 millimeter race, or I guess thickness. 12.1 it's showing there, but I think it's listed as a 12 millimeter bearing. So then the problem is, if you go to the inside diameter, it's kind of an oddball size, 15.84, but when you switch over to inches, it's actually 5/8 of an inch. So it's a millimeter outside bore, inches inside bore. And it was hard to find. And if you do YouTube, if you Google it, you'll find that there was a number of other build threads that had the same problem, and some people had some solutions of machining the shaft and putting shims in, and a bunch of other things, either for thickness or for inside bore to shim it. So I was just doing some research, and I found some alternate bearing numbers. I forget what it's called, the National Numbering System or something to that effect. There was a single number that translated into a number of other manufacturer numbers for the bearing, and I came up with a possible solution of, let's see if it says right here, 202 FS7 MRC. So then I did some searching for that, and lo and behold, I found that particular bearing on eBay for sale. It's new, obviously. It wasn't cheap. It was, probably close to 2 or 3 times more expensive than a regular bearing. But if you're trying to complete the project and that's what you want to do, then maybe it's worth the extra bucks to make it happen. So anyway, the bearing came, which I was excited about. I was not expecting it as quickly as it came. So if you look right here, there you go, 202 FS7.MRC. This comes from, let's see, is there a bearing name on it? Maybe on the inside, as to actually who makes this bearing. It came from, I'm not plugging these, well, I guess I am plugging them, but they didn't do anything for me. I just happened to find them online, but like I said, I found them on eBay, but the name of the place is Locate Ball Bearings Direct from California, I guess. Yeah, so like I said, I ordered them, and they came pretty darn quick, so I was happy about that. I'm going to open this thing up. So here it is. I haven't actually opened it yet. We're going to try and get that opened up. I'm probably just going to towel it off a little bit. I know it's covered in oil there, but I don't want to get oil all over my camera. So hold on one second, I'm going to open that up. I'm just going to kind of blot it dry for the time being, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so we've got it opened up. If you look, it is an MRC made in the USA. Very nice. I'm guessing it's new old stock, but I could be wrong. I doubt they're still manufacturing it, but again, I could be wrong. But it is an MRC 202FS. Now what's interesting is, I'm not sure if that says S or 5. It's supposed to be an FS7. That's what the package says, but we'll measure it up and see if it fits. If it fits, they could call it a groundhog for all I care, as long as it's the same dimensions. Just a recap here. This is the old bearing. It is an open race on one side. It was, I'm not sure if it was intended to be able to be repacked. There were screw holes on the bearing castings that had screws in them. I'm not sure if that was for packing bearing or for packing grease into those bearings or dropping oil. I'm not sure. I got to do a little bit of research on that. There's some extra parts that came off this bearing, as you recall. There was, let's see if it shows on there. So in this bearing, originally I was trying to see if I could get the bearing dust shields completely off to repack it all the way through with grease. This one, let's see, you can hear it. It's a little crunchy. Let's see if I can do it this way. Oh yeah, it doesn't even want to turn. No, not good. Not good. So anyway, I was going to try and repack it if I was unable to locate a new one. That has gone, that plan is out the window because, well, there's a new one. So anyway, just to recall, this bearing had this felt liner inside of it, and it had this dust cover squeezing that felt liner in, like so, and then it had this snap ring holding that dust cover on. So that was how I disassembled that bearing. Obviously those parts are no longer going to be necessary. So here's the new bearing. It does have the dust cover. It looks to be pressed in. I don't see a snap ring or anything on there, so it's just a pressed dust cover. And then on the back side, it's open race. And again, this is a 202 FS, either FS5 or FSS. Foxtrot Sierra Sierra or Foxtrot Sierra 5. Now that is not to be confused with the other bearing that was on here, which is also an MRC. That was on the other end. I forget at the moment which was the front bearing and which was the rear bearing, the shaft end or the tail of the shaft, the pulley end or the tail end of the shaft. This bearing, which I was able to get to reorder, it's a pretty standard size apparently. It's still packed. I haven't even tried to clean it out. This bearing is an MRC also, 202. However, this one is a Sierra Foxtrot SF. So this is 202 SF, and this is 202 FS. So don't get those two mixed up. They're not the same bearing, and I'll show you when I measure it out. Go back to the original that's getting replaced. Let's measure this out. I don't have a micrometer. I'm just using a caliper, digital caliper. It's good enough for my purposes here. Okay, so this one's measuring out at, I'm sorry, let's go back to millimeters. This one's measuring out at 3509, 35, there you go, 3501, 3497, a little shrinkage maybe. It's cold in my basement. Not that it's going to make it shrink that much, but it's, you know, as opposed to operating temperature, it's probably 40 degrees in my basement right now. So that's a little over 35. Okay, and this one, there you go, 35, 35. So we're good there. Let's go this way. Stay put. Just go on this outer race here. 12.25 millimeters. Let's call it 12.25. $12.19 within, you know, 0.05 of a millimeter. Right there, 12.25. So here goes this is the big test right here. Inside diameter, we're going to switch back over to inches. Inside diameter, 625 on the money. Get around a little bit, get it set. Yeah, a little bigger, 628. $6,275. Can't get much better than that. So, for those that are replacing the Kingston Conley, or rebuilding a Kingston Conley motor, they were also branded under the Walker Turner, I think. Walker Turner branded them directly. I'm not sure if anybody else did. I'm not that familiar with other motors. But from my research, I was able to determine that this motor could be found as a Kingston Conley or as a Walker Turner. For those that have had the problem of this bearing, the right here, where is it? This bearing right here, SKF 465181, translates directly over to a 202 FS7 MRC. Right, hope that's helpful for some people, and I know it's certainly going to be helpful for me. I'm still waiting for the replacement for this bearing to come in. Once that does, I can work on clean up the shaft. I don't have a lathe or anything, so I'm just going to Scotch-Brite it, get it cleaned up, clean up the armature or the stator, or I'm sorry, the armature, the rotor, whatever the proper term for that is. Clean that up a little bit. I already kind of cleaned up the stator. I have some paint stripper sitting on here. I'm going to see how that worked out. I know I've been kind of testing it here and there, and there's a couple of spots I'm probably going to have to put some more on, especially on, especially on this center section. I'll get to that in a little bit here. But you know, I'm much closer than I was before, because now I have this brand new bearing, which is going to go right back in there with its oil, right back in the box, and just keep that all nice until it's ready to put on. I also have to figure out if I'm supposed to pack this with grease or whether it's supposed to be just an oiled bearing. Gotta figure that out. So, see what I can find out about that. That's it for now.